Alright, this is Kolam Segaran, believed to be a reservoir during Majapahit times. And you can see there are two pathways. On the left is the ancient pathway, and you're not supposed to walk on that, of course. It's being preserved. And there's a new pathway for visitors to walk on. So I'll walk on this new pathway. Continuing from the last video, the death of Raden Wijaya plunged Majapahit into chaos again as former Singhasari subjects fought for power and privileges. A commoner of humble origin, Gajah Mada began serving the crown as a member of the palace guards. Then he averted one coup after another started by King Raden Wijaya's former comrade in arms. Raden Wijaya's son, King Jayanegara, was too weak to exert control over his late father's comrades. Of the four sisters that Raden Wijaya married, only Jayanegara's aunt, Queen Gayatri, had a daughter, Princess Tribhuvana Tunda Devi. I'll just call her Princess T for short. It's a bit confusing, but this young princess was not only the king's cousin, but also his half-sister, because they shared the same father. Now, this cousin or half-sister was the only princess descended from the divine Ken Arok, and Jayanegara planned to marry her to keep divine blood within his own immediate family. Unfortunately, his proposal was blocked by the assertive Dowager Gayatri. Jayanegara responded by imprisoning the princess. Dowager Gayatri realized that she alone could not openly defy the king. She sought the friendship of the rising star in Majapahit, Gajah Mada, who was not only a good fighter but also the most cunning and intelligent man in the Majapahit court. After numerous meetings between Queen Gayatri and Gajah Mada, the latter became convinced that to make Majapahit great again, King Jayanegara had to go. He first arranged for a beautiful woman to enter the palace and serve the king on a regular basis. She was not a single woman, but the wife of court physician Tancha. Over time, tongues started wagging. One day, when the king was ill, Tancha was called into the palace. When the king was alone with Tancha, Gajah Mada suddenly burst into the private chamber, snatched a surgical lance from Tancha and stabbed Jayanegara to death. Before the shocked Tancha knew what was happening, Gajah Mada drew his kris and finished him off. He then announced to the people of Majapahit that Tancha has assassinated the king out of jealousy. Dowager Gayatri was very pleased with Gajah Mada's performance. She promoted him to Minister of Singhasari and, breaking Hindu tradition, let her imprisoned daughter ascend the throne as Queen T. One of the first things that Queen T did was to restore the rundown Candi Jago as a Buddhist temple. This is Candi Brau, one of the few Buddhist temples that were built during Majapahit times. So most likely was built under the instruction of Dowager Gayatri, who was a Buddhist. Until today, we are still unsure what's the purpose of this temple. Some experts have guessed that it might be some Buddhist crematorium, but until now, they have not found any evidence to confirm that. Gajah Mada was just one rank beneath the most powerful commoner, Prime Minister Ayatada, who knew that his time was up, so he named Gajah Mada as his successor. Dowager Gayatri, however, disapproved. Another person would have gotten angry, but not Gajah Mada. Dowager had her plans, and there was one person who might challenge her young daughter's legitimacy, Prince Kemba. The Dowager saw an opportunity when the town of Sading failed to send tribute. Gajah Mada and Prince Kemba led troops to punish the town. Gajah Mada advised Prince Kemba's forces to cooperate with his forces, but the prince refused. Just then, Queen T made a grand entrance at the battlefield out of the blue and ordered Kemba's soldiers to follow Gajah Mada's orders. Stunned by the appearance of the young but assertive queen, looking like she had descended from the heavens, Kemba's soldiers leaned towards Gajah Mada, recognizing him as their commander. The prince was humiliated. He lost his influence and leadership. Dowager Gayatri's clever maneuver effectively secured legitimacy for both her daughter and Gajah Mada, who returned to Singasari as Prime Minister of Majapahit. I interrupt this story to mention Mr. Lee Kun Choi, who made an astonishing remark during a news program on TV not long after Suharto's regime collapsed and Megawati was incoming president. He said, 印尼人相信他们的总统是天上掉下来的. It might have sounded ridiculous, but it actually makes sense. During Majapahit times, the aura of divinity, like the farmer's wife who claimed to have been impregnated by a deity, grants instant legitimacy to a ruler. Queen T was able to order troops to follow Gajah Mada, not because she had a loud voice, but because the people knew that she had Ken Arok's blood and she exuded an aura of divinity. We may like to call it charisma, but even today, a leader may gain support from some Javanese simply because he or she exudes that aura of divinity. Gajah Mada set out to work immediately. He held numerous meetings with regional governors to reveal his grand plan to make Majapahit an empire that even China would fear. First was territorial expansion. He listed southern Thailand, the Malay Peninsula including Temasek, the Sunda Islands, Sulawesi, Philippine Islands in the Sulu Sea, Borneo, Timor, and the Moluccas. He vowed that he would remain celibate until all these lands submitted to the Javanese motherland or face the wrath of Majapahit. Everyone listening in, including the retired Prime Minister Ayatada, laughed at his ambition. Gajah Mada wasted no time in getting his engineers to work on the design of a ship that could sail across the archipelago. They came up with a jong, a massive wooden ship that could be powered by human rowers or wind. When the Portuguese arrived centuries later, they discovered charts and navigational records indicating that Majapahit jongs had once reached the Cape of Good Hope, stopping by at the island of Madagascar. They had also mapped out the west coast of Australia. Gajah Mada achieved his ambition. Queen T had a baby boy named Hayam Wuruk. When he was 16, his grandmother, Dowager Gayatri, passed away, and the year was 1350. She was a legend. As a little girl, she was traumatized when Singasari burned to the ground, and she was taken to Kediri as a servant. She then married Raden Wijaya after he avenged her father's death, made a comeback, and established Majapahit. After her husband Raden Wijaya's death, she ordered the assassination of her sister's son and hoisted her own daughter to the throne as the first female ruler of Majapahit. Queen T abdicated after her mother's death and lived as a Buddhist hermit thenceforth. Her son Hayam Wuruk ascended the throne. Handsome and energetic, he was in great demand. This is Candi Gentong, and it was first discovered by Raffles expedition in 1815. Nothing much was done until now. Still nothing much was done because of the lack of interest. There are people who just don't want to know too much about their Hindu or Buddhist heritage. Just like Candi Tikus, nobody knows the original name of the structure. Candi Tikus was named Rat Temple because rats were found underneath, and this structure was named Candi Gentong by the contemporaries because jars or gentong were discovered here. At that time, a geographically isolated Sundanese kingdom of Pakuan in West Java did not have Majapahit troops stationed there, even though they were sending tribute. Gajah Mada suggested marrying the Pakuan princess to Raja Hayam Wuruk. The king of Pakuan was delighted with the marriage proposal. He accompanied his daughter to the port of Tuban in East Java, showing off his mighty ships. When the Pakuan entourage arrived at Bubat, they expected a warm reception from Gajah Mada, but nobody showed up. When the ministers approached Gajah Mada, the latter accused them of being rude, entering Majapahit without invitation. By then, the ministers of Pakuan realized that it was not a wedding that Gajah Mada had planned. It was a trap to bring the royal family out of their well-fortified fortress in West Java. Gajah Mada wanted full control of what would become the port of Jakarta today. The Sundanese were hopelessly outnumbered at the Battle of Bubat. The king of Pakuan was horribly killed in battle. His daughter, Princess Chitra Rashmi, witnessed all of this, and instead of retreating back to Pakuan with her men, she turned a kriss on herself. Pakuan was history, but the local people never forgot the deceit and suffering that Majapahit had inflicted on them. This is Gapura Ringin Lawang. It's a gateway during Majapahit times. The strange thing about this gateway is that there are no doors, so it doesn't serve any protective function. It's merely to, welcome people into some grand place. So historians are still not sure what it is meant for. Perhaps to intimidate people when they enter, because it's huge, it's high, and the person entering the compound beyond this gateway is somehow humbled by it. Some believe that is the entrance to the home of the legendary Majapahit Prime Minister Gajah Mada. Gajah Mada feared no one, including his own Raja. He was a commoner who rose to become the most powerful man in Majapahit. Could this be the gateway to his home? Hayam Wuruk was furious. Gajah Mada had not only lied to the Sundanese people, but in his relentless pursuit of conquest, he had even lied to his own Raja. He shared his official attire and went into hiding in the countryside. Hayam Wuruk let his uncle, Bray Winker, take Gajah Mada's place. But it soon became clear to everyone that Gajah Mada was the only man capable of running an empire as vast as Majapahit. Hayam Wuruk announced his pardon of Gajah Mada, and the latter returned to the palace as though nothing had happened. Hayam Wuruk ended up marrying his cousin, daughter of Bre Wanker. After his wedding and official coronation, Hayam Wuruk focused on infrastructure, ensuring that there were adequate roads, ferries, and bridges. Throughout his reign, he made a total of 7 grand tours of his empire to check on the infrastructure. Many common people had the honor of seeing the royal entourage at their doorsteps. The salt trade with China turned out to be a lucrative industry. Hayam Wuruk lifted taxes from small merchants. Majapahit also salted their meats to produce jerky. Sweet and savory dendeng is believed to be a Majapahit invention. Some even believe that Chinese bakwa was copied from Majapahit. In 1364, 70-year-old Gajah Mada would fall ill and die. He was a schemer, an autocrat, a shrewd power broker and manipulator. He ruled with an iron fist, and even his Raja had to listen to him. Even though he was more feared than loved, Gajah Mada was given a grand state funeral. His body was cremated and the ashes were scattered into the Sungai Brantas. No one could fit into his shoes. By then, Hayam Wuruk was a wise and assertive leader. He alone ruled the land, and no major rebellions occurred despite the absence of a prime minister. Majapahit's power would be tested by another conflict with China. Adityawarman, king of the Melayu kingdom in Sumatra, sent an envoy to China, pretending to be an independent kingdom. In response, Ming dynasty's Hongwu emperor recognized the Melayu kingdom and sent China's envoy there. Confused, Hayam Wuruk summoned the Chinese envoy to Majapahit, and when he heard that the envoy would be stationed in the Melayu kingdom and not in Majapahit, he lost his temper and had the Chinese envoy executed. When he calmed down, he sent gifts to China along with a note explaining that it was all Adityawarman's fault for sowing discord between the two empires. Emperor Hongwu calculated the cost of going to war with Majapahit and decided to let the matter rest. Hayam Wuruk, however, still had a score to settle with Adityawarman. But when the Majapahit fleet arrived, Adityawarman had disappeared. The fleet then turned its attention to another potential separatist in the form of Parameswara in Temasek. After being defeated, Parameswara went into hiding on the west coast of the Malay Peninsula. His hiding place would later be known as Malacca. He converted to Islam, became a sultan, and the port he founded would soon be a threat to Majapahit, not militarily but economically. In 1389, at the age of 55, Hayam Wuruk would breathe his last. It was the end of an era, and mighty Majapahit's decline would follow. Our story continues in the next video.